Alright, now looking at the standard formula method or the quadratic formula method. Initially, when we started this class, we said that quadratic equation is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. And your standard formula is actually x is equal to what? Minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Mind you, this square root is covering the whole of this place. It's covering the whole of this place. So the square root covers the entire values here. Now, if we know that this is the standard formula, how did this formula came into being? There should be a proof for it. You cannot just say x is equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. As an SSC student or a YX student, you should be able to show how this formula was gotten or derived. So I'm going to show you how this formula was derived, as in the proof. So let us see the proof of this formula, the proof. Quadratic equation is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. If I divide through by a, you have over a here, over a here, over a here, over a here. So this gives us a cancel a. This is x squared plus bx over a plus c over a equal to 0. So this gives us x squared plus b over a, bx over a. Take this c over a to the other side, you have minus c over a. Okay. Now, after you have done that, you remember you're completing the square method. If you have something like this, left hand side and right hand side, obviously you know what to do. So I will pick my b over a, divide it by 2 and square it. That will give me what? B over 2a all squared, because this a will come down and multiply the 2. So I now have what? X squared plus bx over a plus b over 2a all squared is equal to minus c over a plus b over 2a all squared. Okay, the whole of this expression here is the same thing as saying x plus b over 2a all squared is equal to minus c over a plus b squared over what? 2 squared is what? 4. A squared is what? A squared. Let us clean the board and move on from where we stop. From what we got here, this is x plus b over 2a all squared is equal to what? Now let us take LCM. The LCM of a and 4a squared is what? Is 4a squared. So a in 4a squared is what? Is 4a. So 4a times c will give you what? Minus 4ac, because that's 4a times minus c. Then plus 4a in 4a squared in 4a squared is what? 1. 1 times b squared is what? B squared. So this gives us x plus b over 2a all squared is equal to, you can rearrange this as b squared minus 4ac over what? Over 4a squared. Okay? If you do that, you now have x plus b over 2a, which is equal to plus or minus square root of everything you have there, which is b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. What we are going to do now is, we now have x equal to, so your x now becomes what? Take this plus b over 2a to the other side, it becomes minus b over 2a plus or minus, now b squared minus 4ac, you leave them under the root. Then 4 has a square root, which is 2, and a squared has a square root, which is a. So finally you can see that we have proved the standard formula, which is actually your x equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, because we have 2a here, 2a here, so the whole 2a affects everything you have on top. So this is the quadratic formula. So this is how we can actually prove the quadratic formula using completing the square method. That is what you can use to prove it. So you can see that completing the square method is very important. It goes a long way in quadratic equation to do a lot of things. So you must know all the methods. So we are going to look at how we can use the standard formula to solve quadratic equations. So I'm going to give you an example of that now. Alright, so let us see how we can solve this question using standard formula or quadratic formula. Find, correct to 2 decimal places, the roots of the equation 3x squared minus 5x minus 7 equal to 0. What you will simply do is just to use your formula straight away. Just apply your formula to solving this question. So what do you do? What you need to do in this case, your standard formula is x equal to minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over what? 2a. So if we apply it, now from the question, your a is what? Your a is 3, your b is what? Minus 5, and your c is what? Your c is minus 7. So you fix it into this formula. Your x is equal to, your b is minus 5, so minus 5 inside the bracket, plus or minus square root of your b. Your b is minus 5, so that's minus 5 squared, and then minus 4a, a is 3, and then your c is what? Negative 7. So the square root covers the whole of this number, all over what? 2a. That's 2 times 3. So that gives us x equal to minus times minus will give us plus. So this is 5 plus square root of, now minus 5 squared will give you what? 25. Minus times minus here will give you plus, and then you times 12 times 7. 12 times 7 will give you 84. So if we work it, this becomes, if you add these two numbers, 25 and 84, you get 109. And then you divide it by 6. And if you do that, you have this. You have this. Now look at it. Your x is equal to 5 plus or minus. The square root of 109 is 10.44. If you have a calculator, you can do that. You get 10.44 over 6. So your value of x will now be 5 plus 10.44 over 6. Which will give you what? 15.44 over 6. So your x is equal to what in that case? Your x will become, if you divide 15.44 by 6, you get 2.57. Or your s can be equal to 5 minus 10.44 divided by 6, which will give you minus 5.44 over 6. So if you divide that, your x will give you what? Minus 0.91. So that is all about that particular question. So that is how you can actually solve that question using standard formula method. So now I'm going to give you drills for factorization, completing the square, and also how you can use standard formula to solve. So you are going to do these particular questions on your own. If there's any difficulty in any of the questions in our next class, we are going to touch that, okay? Alright, so the questions you have there, we have drill 1, use factorization method to solve the following, and the second one is drill 2, use completing the square method to solve the following quadratic equation. The next one we have drill 3, use standard formula method or quadratic formula method to solve the equation. You give your answer correct to 2 decimal places, okay? So I want you to briefly take that question down then and solve it on your own, so that when we meet in the next class, if you have any problem, then we can actually solve it in the classroom together. So that is the question I want to give you for your drills, the one you can actually practice. So the next thing we are going to talk about now is how to construct a quadratic equation. How to construct quadratic equation. That will be the next thing we are going to talk about now.